Alright, what's up class? Long time no see. The goal for you guys tonight is for you to be able to write inequalities, graph inequalities on a number line, and solve one-step inequalities. Alright, now the only thing that's different about an inequality and an equation is these inequality signs right here. Okay? Equations, there's usually only one answer for the variable. With inequalities, there's way more than one answer. An infinite amount of answers, actually. Alright, so, for example, this inequality. C is greater than negative 4. Remember, you've already learned about inequalities. These inequality signs, I know you might have learned to think about them as like alligator mouths. Alligators are always trying to eat the most possible they can. So the mouth is usually facing, well, not usually, always facing the greater value. Alright, so in this case, C, whatever number we use to represent C, is greater than negative 4. So that means any number greater than negative 4, we can plug in for C, and it's going to make this inequality true. Here are some possible answers. C could equal negative 3, it could equal negative 2, it could equal negative 1, 0, and so on. 1, 2, 3, 4. An infinite amount of answers are possible. Okay? So, if I plug in any number here for C, this is going to be true because negative 3 is greater than negative 4, negative 2 is greater than negative 4, negative 1 is greater than negative 4, and so on. Alright, down here, all this means is y is less than or equal to 2. Alright, whenever there's that line underneath that inequality sign, right, this little triangle looking alligator mouth, that means or equal to. Okay, so this is just greater than, because C is greater than, and this is y is less than or equal to 2. That means that y can equal a bunch of different answers. Since y is less than or equal to 2, y can equal negative 1, or sorry, positive 1, y can equal 0, y can equal negative 1, and so on, because all of these numbers are less than or equal to 2. The next one. M is greater than or equal to negative 1. So, M can equal negative 1, 0, 1, 2, all the way down the number line. Alright? M can equal any of those because all of those numbers are greater than or equal to negative 1. And then lastly, H is less than 3, which means that any number we plug in for H that's less than 3 is going to make that inequality true. So H can be 2, 1, 0, negative 1, and ongoing. Alright, there's always an infinite amount of answers possible when we write inequalities. Infinite means limitless. The numbers can't end. The amount of answers you can plug in are never going to end. Alright, so, next slide. Writing inequalities. Alright, just like we wrote equations based on word problems, we're going to learn how to write inequalities. So, let's see. Number 1. There are fewer than 25 students in the class. Alright, well the variable here is the number of students. So I'm going to underline this. And I'm going to draw an S next to it. Alright, so there are fewer than 25 students. So we've got our variable, S for students. And it says there are fewer than 25 in the class. So, fewer than 25 class, if I underline this, fewer than, that means there are less than 25 students in the class. So actually I'm going to use green for this. Got our variable. Fewer than 25 means the number of students must be less than 25. And that is an ugly looking 25, so let me rewrite that. S is less than 25. There are fewer than 25 students in the class. So any number we plug in that's less than 25 for S is going to make this inequality true. Alright, next one, let's see. There are more than 18 people. Okay, so let's circle this more than. This is going to tell us what inequality sign we're going to have to use. 18 people in the room, more than 18 people in the room, had brown hair. Well, the variable here is, before it was students, now it's going to be, whoop, let me get my marker. People with brown hair. Since we're talking about people with brown hair, I'm going to underline brown and use the letter B to represent the number of people with brown hair. So now when I write my inequality, B is my variable. And if you thought that you could use people or P as your variable, I would accept that also. Okay? So more than 18 people in the room had brown hair. More than 18. So it's not like there can be 18 people in the room with brown hair. There's more than 18. So our answer is going to be more than 18. Alright, and there's one more thing I should probably do to these sentences. Circle the number. Or I'll just put a square around it. Right, because this is the number you're going to use when you write the inequality. Before, the number was 25, so I used 25 in the inequality. In this sentence, 18 was the number used in the sentence, so I used 18 in the inequality. Alright, next one. There are at least, alright, at least 15 dogs in the park. Alright, well, dogs, that's going to be my variable, definitely. Dogs is my variable, and again, my number, 15. Alright, so there are at least 15 dogs in the park. Well, my variable is D. Think about this sentence, class. There's at least 15. That means at the least there are 15 dogs. So that means there can be 15 dogs in the park. 16 dogs, 17 dogs, 18 dogs. But at least 15. So 15 is a possible solution for D. So that means that D must be greater than or equal to 15. Because at least 15 means that 15 is a possible solution for the number of dogs in the park. So when I write my inequality, you have to make sure you have that or equal to sign underneath the gator mouth. And then again, I use that number in the inequality when I wrote it. Now these next three, I'm sorry I keep looking above me, class, but I got a wasp nest being built above my deck, and luckily they don't look too happy, or sorry, don't look too angry, otherwise I wouldn't be out here. But these next three, I want you guys to give a shot. Try and write inequalities for them. Again, dissect the sentence, identify the number, figure out what the inequality sign is going to be, and figure out what the variable is. So give them a shot, pause the video, I'll be right back. Alright, so let's look. First, let's see the variable. No more than 50 people were on the bus. Alright, I will use people this time for my variable, so I'm going to underline people. And that's going to be the letter P I'm using. Here's my number I have to use, 50. And there are no more than 50 people on the bus. Alright, well I know P is my variable. Alright, think about that sentence. There's no more than 50. No more than 50. So 50 has got to be the maximum amount of people on the bus. But 50 is a possible solution for our variable P. So that means that The inequality we are going to use is less than or equal to 50. There are no more than 50. So that means that there can be 50, there can be 49, 48, 47 people on the bus, and so forth. Alright, but no more than 50. So that means the number of people must be less than or equal to 50. Number 5. There are at most, alright, at most 31 days, alright, and our variable is D, days, so I'm going to underline days, put a D. There are at most 31 days in a month. So I'm going to write out this inequality, D for days, at most 31 days. So that means 31 is a possible solution for D, but there can't be any more than 31 days in a month. So that means 31 would work for D, 30, 29, 28, and so on until we got down to 0 or 1. There are at most 31 days in a month. So the number of days must be less than or equal to 31. Because we said D could be 31, but it could also be 30, 29, 28, and so on. Actually 28 because there's no more days than that in a month. So, and number 6, there is more than. Alright, let's see. More than. Oh, there's my number, 282. And we're talking about dollars, money. I'm going to use M to represent money. If you wanted to use D for dollars, you could have done that too, though. So, let's see. M. There is more than $282 in the bank. So M, more than 282 bucks. M is greater than 282, right? It says it's more than 282. So 282 isn't a possible solution for M, meaning we're not going to have that or equal to sign underneath the gator mouth, underneath that inequality sign. So the amount of money is greater than 282. Alright, next slide. Sorry guys, this isn't taking too long. Alright, but here, when you have to be able to graph inequalities on a number line, this is what you need to be able to do. Here I've just got my number line, right? Negatives, positives. Greater the value, less of a value, that way. Alright, so if I wanted to graph E is less than negative 2. This is the most important part about graphing inequalities, so pay attention. See this? See this dot I used? When you graph inequalities, you're always going to put, let me use a different color here. You're always going to put the dot that is shown in the inequality on that number line. So we've got E is less than negative 2. We're putting our dot on negative 2. Okay? Now, there are two types of dots you're going to draw. Either an open dot or a closed dot. Whenever, class, you have a sign like this that doesn't have that equal sign underneath, okay? You're going to use an open dot. Whenever you see an inequality sign like this, you're going to use a closed dot. Okay, and the reason for that is because E is less than negative 2. So that means any number less than negative 2 will make that inequality true. If we plug it in for E, right? We can plug in negative 3, negative 4, negative 5, but we can't plug in negative 2. And that's why there's an open circle around the negative 2, because that is not a possible solution. Okay? Over here, I graphed P is greater than or equal to 4. Well, greater than, that's going to go to the right. Right? Greater numbers are further to the right on the number line. So that's the way you're going to shade in that side of the dot on the number line. Oh no, there's a dog barking. Alright, so hope that thing is quiet soon. Alright, so P is greater than or equal to 4. I put a closed dot on the 4, and since it's greater than 4, I shaded it to the right. Another way to look at this, class, is look at the way the inequality arrow is pointed. Now, as long as the variable comes first and the number comes second, whichever way that arrow points, that's the way you shade. Look, it's pointing to the right, so we're shading to the right. This one's pointing to the left, so we're shading to the left. Alright, now, using what I just told you, I want you to graph these two inequalities on the number line. So pause the video, get started. Alright, let's see how we did. So, alright, we've got y is less than or equal to negative 6. Alright, well, y is less than or equal to negative 6. You got that equal sign, right? What type of dot we're using? Closed dot. And we're going to put it right on that number, negative 6. So, got a closed dot right there on negative 6. Y is less than or equal to negative 6. Less than negative 6. The lower the values are to the left on the number line. So we are going to shade to the left. That's it for that inequality. Alright, next one. C is greater than 1. Alright. No equal sign, no line underneath that inequality. So we're going to use an open dot. So I'm going to put that open dot on the 1. And C is greater than 1. Greater values are to the right on the number line. So I'm going to shade to the right on the number line. Okay? That's it. That's all you guys had to do. Alright, last slide. Now I know it might be taking a little while, but bear with me. Alright. Over here. Last thing I want you to be able to do is solve one-step inequalities. Class, there is nothing different about solving these than when we solve one-step equations. The only thing that's different is we have an inequality sign in here now instead of an equal sign. That's the only thing that's changed, okay? And one rule you're going to have to abide by. Alright, so let's look at that. So, we got n plus negative 8 is greater than or equal to negative 19. I want to get the variable all by itself. So, I need to use inverse operations. The opposite of negative 8 will be plus 8, right? So, I'm going to do plus 8 on this side and plus 8 on the other side. Now, the plus 8 and the minus 8, those are going to cancel out. So, I cross these out. All that's left is that n, so I'm going to bring the n down. And it is greater than or equal to, well, negative 19 plus 8 is going to give me negative 11. So, there's my answer. N is greater than or equal to negative 11. That's it. That's all you guys have to do. Next one, number 2. Check it out. P is, or sorry, I was going to read that out as a sentence. P minus negative 6 is greater than 23. Alright, well, check it out, class. Look, we have a minus and a negative right next to each other. You know the drill. Whenever you see something like that, you have to combine them and turn that into an addition sign. So now, my inequality reads as P plus 6 is greater than 23. The opposite of plus 6, minus 6. So I'm going to do that on both sides. Alright. The plus 6 and the minus 6 are going to cancel out. So all I have left is P, which is greater than 23 minus 6, 17. Alright, number 3. Now, it's the only rule you have to remember when you are solving one-step, two-step, multi-step inequalities with variables on both sides, one side, whatever. Write this down. When you multiply or divide both sides of a negative integer, flip the inequality sign. Alright, I'm going to show you what that means. And I'm going to explain why we do that in class tomorrow. Alright, so, check it out. M divided by negative 2. What's the opposite of divided by negative 2? Times negative 2. So, since I multiply this side by negative 2, I'm going to multiply this side by negative 2. So these are going to cancel out. All I have left over here is m. Now remember when I said when you multiply or divide both sides by a negative integer, you flip the inequality sign? Before, the mouth was facing to the right. Now I have to flip it. That mouth is now going to face to the left. And negative 10 times negative 2, positive 20. Alright? I'm going to explain why we do that in class, because that, multiplying and dividing by negative integers, changes which side is greater than and which side is less than. Alright? So now, I've just shown you those examples. Try and solve 4, 5, and 6 on your own though. Pause the video, see if you can figure them out. Alright, back. Let's go over these. First thing you might have noticed for this one is I just had the answer, or that one number all by itself on the left side instead of like those where they were all on the right side. That's okay. You're still going to do the exact same thing. Just because I have the variable on the right side now doesn't mean I'm going to do anything different. I want to get that variable by itself. Well, right now I'm adding 14 to y. I got to cancel it out by doing the opposite, or the inverse, which is minus 14. So I'm going to do that to both sides. Okay, these are going to cancel. So I get y all by itself, and that is greater than negative 14 minus, or sorry, negative 11 minus 14 is negative 25. So y is greater than negative 25. Number 5, negative 9c is greater than 36. Alright. The operation that's being used here, class, is multiplication, remember, because you can't see it in between the 9 and the c. The opposite of multiplication is division. So, instead of times negative 9, I'm going to divide this side by negative 9. And I'm going to do that to both sides. Okay? So, these are going to cancel. All I've left is c. And since I divided by a negative number, like the rule says, I have to flip that inequality sign. So now, it's going to face that way. And 36 divided by negative 9 is negative 4. Alright? And then number 6. H minus 5 is less than or equal to negative 17. All you do is the inverse. So the opposite of minus 5 plus 5. So I'm going to do that on both sides. These are going to cancel out. So I have h all by itself, less than or equal to negative 17 plus 5, negative 12. Alright, that's it. We're going to go over all this stuff tomorrow in class. You have any questions? Ask me first thing in the morning when you walk into the school. But that dog's barking again, so that's the perfect time to end the video. See you guys later.